And then I'll share my screen. Hey, recording people. So I'm just pulling the slides up. Okay, so Bluetooth. We have to use the ESP32 because the Arduino doesn't have a built-in Bluetooth module, and we couldn't get an external Bluetooth module, which is another option that you can do. But we're not doing that. We're just using the ESP32 for Bluetooth. And so basically, we're not going to talk about too much of the theory behind Bluetooth because you don't really need to know it too much. You just need to be able to use Bluetooth like as a tool, essentially. And it's kind of unnecessary to go into like all the theory and like how the protocol works and stuff. It's just I'm pretty sure it's similar to like UART stuff. It's just like a way of communicating between two devices. But we can do it wirelessly, and that's the biggest awesome thing, is we can do wireless communication. And so like this whole time so far, we've been doing everything just connected to the computer and stuff. And it's just like, I mean everything's cool, but like it gets a lot cooler when like you can control stuff remotely, wirelessly, which you can do using Bluetooth. So you're gonna need processing. I sent out the instructions to download that earlier. It's really easy. You don't have to like even install anything. It's just you download it, you extract it, and then you can just run the .exe file. Hang on, my camera's blurry. I'm gonna restart that. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward to get that. And then there's like a little test thing in the slides I sent out in the Discord. And so make sure processing is working. You need the ESP32. So if you're ESP32, you still have issues with that, just follow along for now, and then try to do this later once the ESP32 is working. So basically we're gonna learn essentially by example for Bluetooth. So I'm just gonna give you guys like the code for the processing and for the Arduino and the circuit, and then build that, get that working, get all that setup working, because there's likely a lot of you will run into a lot of bugs for this. And so I know a lot of you ran into bugs for ESP32, whether it's just like simple things or just like things, just totally random things that were just like, you have to look on the internet to try to fix. A lot of that'll happen with Bluetooth. I've had a lot of problems with Bluetooth in the past. And so hopefully we don't run into too many of those, but be prepared for that. And so don't be afraid to ask for help if you're running into issues. There can just be a whole bunch of random stuff. So first things first, we need to establish the Bluetooth connection between the ESP32 and your computer. So we're gonna need to, what do you call it? Connect. So disconnect the ESP32 from the other circuit you've been working on and just connect it just into the power. And then you're gonna want to go to this link, this GitHub repository. I'll paste into the chat here. And you're gonna want to copy and paste the Arduino code into a new Arduino file, and then the processing code into a new processing file. And then, so I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that. Actually, no, while you do that, I'll start going over the code. How's that? So I should probably talk about this. Processing is a Java program. It's technically, you don't need it to do Bluetooth stuff. You can do Bluetooth things using just the serial stuff, like communication terminals that we've been using so far. From what I've read, it's really hard to do that. And this is how I learned it, is you can just use this processing thing, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Processing isn't specifically for Bluetooth. It's just like a Java program that lets you do a whole bunch of stuff. But it does have the added benefit of being able to open a serial Bluetooth channel, and then also lets you lay out very nicely in a window very easily, like a UI for you to use as well, and lets you like press keys on your keyboard and like send that via Bluetooth. And so processing gives you a lot of stuff to do, and it's free and it's really easy to use. So it's perfect for what we're using it for, basically. So the first thing is import, the HC05, this is an old comment from some code I copied and pasted. The HC05 is the Bluetooth module that you can use instead of the ESP32. And so it's like, it's all pretty much the same. It's just like it's a little separate chip that you use instead of like a whole microcontroller for the Bluetooth, and you could use that with Arduino basically. But that's just an aside for now. So this imports this is the processing, this is like a library that processing gives you. And then this like declares an object that you use. In fact, we did that for have we done that? Trying to remember. Anyways, it's just, this declares the object. So it's like how we've been doing like serial dot like println, that type of stuff. My port is basically a serial, like it's just a name. So you can name this whatever, it's just my port. For now, it's just a string that we're going to be using later. And then so similar to the Arduino IDE, processing has a setup and a draw. This is like a loop. And so the whole thing behind processing is like the main thing you can do is pop up a window and like very easily do graphics and stuff on that. And so this, in the setup, it opens up this window of the size. We create the port that we've declared earlier up here, the serial port. So this is all good. This is just like a reference to itself. It's just, think of it right now as just a magic word. Don't worry about too much. It's just here and it makes it work. The COM3, that's the port that you are going to be using via Bluetooth, and I'll go into it later once we get the Bluetooth set up. But for now, just remember, you'll likely have to change this to something for it to start working. And then this is the baud rate, which will just stay the same. And then my port.buffer until, basically this is just saying, I'm not going to read until I reach the like read from the buffer until I get a new line. So it reads the whole string in before it actually does anything with it. So this serial event, this is like with processing, there's a couple different things. There's another one down here, key pressed. So actually, I'm going to do this in the other order. So we're going to skip over this for now. So draw is like loop. It just runs continuously. And so this is the graphics part, where in the window that we made earlier, this creates a background. And this is the color of the background, RGB values. This is 0 to 255, I think. And so you can just set the background to just any color with this. Fill sets, again, this is the RGB. This is the color that it's going to fill whatever shapes that we declare going forwards. Stroke is the color for the borders around the shapes that we're going to declare, and stroke weight just sets the width for that border. And so this rect lets you declare a rectangle at some coordinates x, y. So the way the coordinates work is in the top left, it's 0, 0, and then moving to the right is increasing x, and moving down is increasing y. So if you've done computer graphics before, it works like this often. It's different from like a graph, like you're used to, like y going up is positive, but in this, y going down is positive. So this declares a rectangle in the top left corner. I think this is the top left corner, is at these coordinates, and then it has a height and a width. And so we'll see later we'll see visually what this code is doing, but for now, just bear with me. It's like, okay, there's a background that's coloring it. There's a rectangle somewhere. This X is just a variable we're using to make the rectangle move. And once we visually see it, I'll get into like why we have this in the first place. But for now, we just have a moving rectangle that goes until X is 800 and then teleports back to 0. And then we set fill to 0. So this is just setting the color to black. This is the text size. And then this is how you can draw text anywhere super easily. Because like if we weren't using processing, just like in like if you're in like C++ or something without using an external library, like drawing text would be a like nightmare to make yourself. This is just, you can just put the text you want to write in and it just draws the text nicely. And then, so this is a state. This is basically I'll go into this other stuff now. So we'll come back, put a little marker here. We'll come back to this once we cover the other things that we skipped over earlier. And so while processing is doing this loop thing, there can be interrupts to the loop where it runs other code depending on certain events that happen. So one of the things is this serial event. So this is basically watching the Bluetooth serial port that we have declared. And so whenever there's some data to be read in the buffer, this gets called. And so this my port.buffer until that we talked about earlier it waits until that buffer gets the new line, and then it calls the serial event. And so think of it whenever, it's basically whenever there's anything from the SP32 that it's sending to your computer, this will get called. And so this will read in the string that we sent from the ESP32 to your computer. And so it stores it in text. So just black box high level understanding of this is just how you get information from your microcontroller. And then this key press down here, this is how you check to see whenever a key is pressed anywhere on your keyboard, on your computer, this gets called. And it automatically sets this variable key to the key that was pressed, basically. And so we can check if it was W, for example, we can set our state variable, which we have outside as a global variable, so we can use it in our main loop over here. We can set that to whatever we want, depending on which key was pressed. And so going back to what we were talking about earlier. So this state variable, basically we're using this here to check to see if W or S is pressed. And so if W or S was pressed at some point within this last like loop, just if it got interrupted and this got called and set state to 1 or 2, then we're gonna write to my port. We're just gonna write one character, either the W or the S, depending on which was pressed on the keyboard. And so this will send from your computer to the ESP32. So this is how you can do button inputs on your keyboard and do things on your microcontroller based on that information. So that was a lot, but there's more. There's the Arduino part too. That was the processing part. So Arduino you're more familiar with, although this will probably not be very familiar. This is just a lot of magic stuff, make it work. You don't have to worry about too much. Just you have to have some of the stuff in here, like this includes the Bluetooth serial library, so you can use stuff from that. This chunk, just have this, it handles some errors and stuff. This is similar to in processing an object being declared. So you're going to use serial BT, like remember how we had serial 2 instead of like serial we were using at first, then we started using serial 2. Now we're using serial BT for the Bluetooth serial channel. And so here's just defining some pins that we'll see later, setting the pin modes. So serial BT.begin starts the Bluetooth serial connection. And then this string can technically be whatever. Just setting it, this is what shows up when you try to connect Bluetooth devices, which you'll do in a little bit here. So you can label this whatever. I would say just label it ESP32 so you know what's popping up, but you can, if you want, you can kind of just call it whatever. It doesn't really matter. And then our main loop, we have, again, so instead of, make sure you're not doing serial.available. It has to be serial BT.available. So this will check to see if there's anything in the buffer, and then it reads it in. And so we read in from the Bluetooth. You have to cast it to a character with this car. This I think this is because when it reads in from the what do you call it, from the Bluetooth serial connection, it reads it in as like a different format than the character, and so you'll run into issues if you don't cast it to a character. I'm honestly not 100% why, but you remember you do need this. And even if it already was a character, even if it was the right format, casting it to a character again can't hurt, and so it's just good just to have this anyways. And then it just checks to see, okay, did we get a W or an S basically from the computer? And so based on that information, we'll either turn the LED on or off. Separate from that, we have this down here. And so think of this as like two separate circuits. I'll talk about it in a little bit when we get to the actual circuit itself. I feel like I keep saying we'll talk about it in a little bit. Realistically, we're going to talk about a lot of this tomorrow. So hopefully you're getting a good overarching understanding of this, and then we'll bring it back tomorrow where we'll actually go into the details. Anyways, though, this is like a separate circuit pretty much, just testing a different thing. This is, it reads in from your circuit, and it will print to the serial Bluetooth connection a string, and then we'll use that string. Remember earlier in the processing file, this is the string that we're going to be drawing onto the screen. And so basically this up here tests to see if we can talk from our computer to the microcontroller, to the ESP32. And then this down here tests to see if we can talk from the microcontroller, from the ESP32 to the computer. And so that's just both ways of communication. So hopefully you got something from all of that going through that code. Anyways, this works, and this is just like a starting template. So once you digest like how this works overall, you can start to modify it and start to do your own things based on that. So there's a lot of like syntax and stuff you're unfamiliar with. And so just try to extrapolate from this working thing. You can start to add your own things by just changing, tweaking some things going forward. So back to the slides. Hopefully you've got processing installed and stuff. You got the code all copy and pasted now. So the first thing we'll want to do, and the last thing we'll do tonight, is in the ESP32, or we want to establish the Bluetooth connection between the ESP32 and your computer. So you're going to want to hook your ESP32 up to power and like disconnect all jumper wires from it. Don't set anything up, just have it connected to power somehow. And then actually you're going to want to upload your code. So connect it to power and upload your code. This will put the code on the microcontroller, you know that. But once you do that, hopefully you've done that, you're going to go to Bluetooth and add Bluetooth or other device, and then Bluetooth.
So we have from processing or from Arduino?
For Arduino. We're not going to do processing just yet. We're going to do that after. So just random, whatever, I don't know, my neighbor's stuff or something. ESP32 will pop up here. I already have it paired, and so it's not popping up again, but ESP32 will pop up here. You click that, and then that should connect your computer to your ESP32.
Nick,
so it should
are
be
you
pretty
supposed to be
straightforward.
sharing a different screen? I still see
did that
these
not
little
share?
slides.
Oh, okay, well, it's on the future slides here anyways. This is pictures. So you just go to Bluetooth, you go to add Bluetooth or other device, Bluetooth, ESP32, like that. So, and you should see this if it does connect. So this was for Windows. I'm not sure how it works for Mac. It's probably pretty similar. But yeah, you just need to make sure you have that code uploaded to the ESP32, so it actually starts the Bluetooth connection on that side of things. And the ESP32 is powered, and then you should see it and be able to connect to it. And so I think we'll stop for there. I think we'll pick it up again tomorrow. So if you can get this far for tonight, you're in good shape to start tomorrow. So just try to get it connected, establish that connection between the ESP32 and your computer. And yeah. So are there any questions? I know kind of went fast and there was a lot of information, but it's kind of one of those things where as you use it, it starts to make more sense. You just need to get like a running start, basically. You need a foothold, and then from there you can start to build up and kind of understand all the different pieces. So does anyone have any questions? Have any issues doing this Bluetooth connection at all? Okay. Okay, we can stop the recording then. Or unless, do we have any